So say the word, say when, and we'll be like.
All right. So I think we're good.
Okay. So go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what you do, all that fun stuff.
All right. So my name is Sabrina Cabrera, Rivera, because everyone has to know my full name. I am a photographer and a writer. And currently I'm stationed in New York.
Cool. Okay. So what are some of your favorite topics to write about?
I am a very big fan of travel writing and obviously Latinx-based material for content writing purposes, and mostly as of late in my personal field, poetry and a lot of fiction writing right now.
I'm so awkward with interviews, so I'm going to cut some of this out.
You're good, you're good.
Yeah, tell me more about like some of your, the stuff that you've wrote about. Has anything gotten published, obviously, aside from us?
So aside from Yes, Mija, I have been published in a couple small pieces for poetry. I have had pieces published at the University of Tampa's literary journal, Neon, as well for Women Who Roar and Mookie Chick in the last year and a half. I've also had other content pieces that I've written for different sites. They're older though, so I'm not sure if they're still around. Trying to see. I did get hired most recently for a blog called foodanddating.com. So I have one piece up already. Hopefully within the next few weeks, there'll be a couple more pieces going up.
Well, what do they have you like, obviously food and dating, like what kind of stuff are you like writing over there?
So most recently I wrote whether or not people should have pancakes for dessert on a date. It was very fun. It was very interesting. I never thought about it, but then when I was given it the opportunity to write about it, I kept thinking like, wow, why don't I have pancakes for like dessert on a date? Like, why don't I go on diner dates? Why don't I like share chocolate chip pancakes or like make chocolate chip pancakes with like a date? That sounds so fun and very couple goal kind of situation. So that was unique for me to figure out. I was like, wow, learn something about myself.
Person, so I love breakfast. If somebody asked me on a breakfast date, I would definitely go get some. So
I'm telling you, if someone were to be like, let's go to Denny's on a date, I'm like, yes.
Let's go right now.
There's no way you're going to get a no from me.
Waffle House.
Yes. Just take me to all the breakfast diners. You got me. I'm sold.
Sold. Cool. So what are some obstacles that you faced being Latina artist, writer, and photographer?
So I don't see it as often with like Hispanic photographers. Most of the time they're like, you know how to take pictures? Wonderful, cool, great. I do get more clientele that way because Hispanics love to talk to each other and promote each other most of the time. As a writer, I've had my fair share of instances where I've written stories or poems and people would get kind of upset with me switching between languages. That was a very unique experience. I'm not a big fan of that. It would be like, what is the word? Like small aggressions, microaggressions. Where they'll kind of say like, oh, I wish you used more translations because I don't understand. And I'm like, okay, but there's plenty of Hispanic kids that go to school and they don't understand English and you don't give them the option for translation.
So do you prefer to write like bilingual?
I do. Most recently, before I started college, I was very strictly English, but that was being raised where all the main characters were white. Blonde hair, blue-eyed, nothing against those. And some of my favorite characters are like Percy Jackson, very white character. But like I would have wished for more characters that did look like me growing up. And the less I saw of that, the more it kind of did influence me wanting to create a character that did look like me. So when I did hit college, I started being like, okay, that's unrealistic for me to have Spanish characters and not have them speak Spanish, or at least have Spanish spoken around them. So I started including it in a lot more of my stories. In most recent poems, I've actually started switching verses in English and in Spanish, because bilingual literature is not very common, no matter what language you're looking at.
It's true.
It's just not very common.
Yeah, I feel like we just need more of that, just like in every aspect of art. Like obviously writing is a huge thing, and there are so many people that are bilingual, so being able to share, both Spanish and English at the same time for people that, do speak both, and, Spanish isn't their first language, or maybe English isn't their first language, or, they were just brought up on both and they want to represent both sides of them. I think that's important. So I think that's great.
Try out here.
So what are some things that you've had to do, like as far as dealing with like any fallbacks or, any other like obstacles that you face, like with writing?
With writing, in my personal life, I've had issues with having two last names. Like getting into college was an actual issue for me, because on one part of the spectrum, I was taking my SAT and ACT, and they only had enough slots for one last name, not two. And so I put one last name for my exams, and then my two last names for my my college application. And when I didn't hear my result, even though I was supposed to hear it at some point, they said my application was incomplete because my exams, I never sent them. And when I tried to figure out what was going on, they discovered it, and I actually had to start school late because of it.
That sucks.
Yeah. It became a pretty big habit where a lot of jobs and a lot of like testing, or when like teachers or potential like employers were looking for me, they would state my first last name, which is Cabrera, thinking that was my first name, because my first name would be kicked off first base. So they'll think my full name was like Cabrera Rivera. I'm like, no, it's Sabrina. There's an S there. I'm here. But I haven't faced as much like difficulties as I thought I would be. Like even for photography, which I did forget. I do have photos published on Creative Loafing in Tampa Bay. But the only time I've ever had an issue was that for them, they actually had my name switched. So instead of Cabrera Rivera, it was Rivera Cabrera. So I couldn't find myself online until I was just like, wait, I know I posted these. Where are they?
Hopefully you don't have any more issues like that. You know, obviously having two last names is definitely,
And I want to keep both, even though it's easier. Apparently, a lot of people like to tell me like, oh, what's your favorite one? I'm like, I like both my last names.
Yeah, but obviously like there's like so many things that people are like, oh, it's just easier this, or it's easier that, or like, if you have an exotic name, people are like, just shorten it and make it, simple, because it makes it easier for other people. But like,
like, no,
it's about you want and how you want to be represented. You don't want it shouldn't be about, making things easier for other people.
And I agree with them. My mom fought for me to have both of my last names, and I'm very proud of both of my last names. So, like, obviously in high school I was embarrassed because I was like, oh my God, like, it's so long. And then now I'm like, yeah, say both of them, please. This is my identity. You can say the entire name.
Say the whole thing. Say, like, don't even say just my first name. Say the whole thing.
Just say it. That's my name. Whole title. I deserve it. I deserve to be recognized. And I fear for people who actually have a lot more difficult names. Like, my names are actually pretty, like, simple to pronounce. But, like, I feel for people who have a lot more, like, Hispanic sounding or, like, more complicated names. Because I'm like, okay, it's a larger struggle. Like, for me, it's only complicated because there's two. But, like, if it were somebody else, and they would get their names butchered all the time, and that just, I can't imagine how that is.
Yeah, and then you've got like 3 middle names.
Yes, a full name. It's just they all, I think, are 7-letter names for me.
That's interesting.
I'm pretty sure that was just a random coincidence, but like it happened.
You should ask. Definitely ask.
Hopefully.
So what are some of your goals for writing, and then I guess some of your goals for photography as well?
So for photography in specific, I really want to get into travel photography. I actually do have my own travel page. It's called travel_by_camera. I travel with my camera. Not that creative of a name, but it's there. I want to see if I can start working for like a travel blog or like a travel magazine one day. Travel has been in my life for a very, very long time, and I want to keep having it in my life. I've been on an airplane since I was like 2 weeks old, and I don't think I'm going to stop there. And for writing, I want to see if I can have a book published by the end of 2021, or at least get in the process of having a book published by then.
I think it's a very, I don't want to say easy, but like, I think, you push yourself to like write a little bit every single day. I think it's definitely something that you could accomplish.
It's weird and it's very fun. Like I have at the moment, I think 30 to 40 pages. And while that doesn't feel like sound like a lot, it's a lot when you think about how much time you put in and be like, oh wow, like that's actually a lot.
Yeah, because some books are like, what, 300, 350 pages, like that it doesn't seem like a lot, right? And then you like put it into perspective and you're like, actually, this is a lot of pages. So like if you already have like, 40 pages down, that's like, I don't know, I can't do math, but
yeah, and that's like with that nonsense being like double spaced and like all of that, honestly. And I'm like, okay. And then when I'm not gonna go through the boringness of publishing, but like they'll make it easier, and actually it will extend depending on like the type of paper, the type of this, how big they're making the words. It changes the whole entire perspective. So I
like how big the book is, like paperback, hardback.
Oh gosh, I get very excited talking about it. I'm like, yes, publishing, books, all of the things. I love it.
Have you ever thought of like self-publishing anything?
I actually thought about it for the first time a year or so ago of getting something self-published. It does require, I think, more money on your own behalf to be self-published, but at least you are able to control a good chunk of the funds on where it goes, on how the design goes. Most of the input you are putting in is for yourself, and that, I think, whoever does get self-published, I am very, like, I have a lot of admiration for them, because I'm like, that's a lot of work. It is a lot of work to do that on your own. You have to promote on your own.
Yeah, that is a lot.
And so, like, I think I'll probably try my hand in both, of getting like a publishing agency and publishing on my own, and seeing what works better for me in the end, because I think it just depends on each person. Like for content writing, I'm very glad posting about it, be like, check it out, look at this, I did this, check it out, look at the brand, which is why like I liked Yes Mija a lot, because it was a Latinx brand. So I was like, yes, please look at the things.
Have you thought of like reaching out to any like I guess bigger like magazines and stuff that you're like, 'cause you're in New York now, so you like, I don't know like how everything is like with COVID and everything, but like maybe emailing people, finding the right email, and maybe they're looking for like blog interns or something, or maybe they have like positions for stuff like that, or like, I don't know, like freelance writing for a magazine or something.
Yes. It's easier and there's more jobs available in New York. It's also very competitive, and New York is very expensive. So I do apply for the internships, even though it kills me inside, because most of the time it's a lot of work for free. And well, I'm like, yes, I need the experience, but also I'm like, you're taking full advantage that I am a recent college grad.
I do think at this point you should,
Yeah, but that doesn't stop me from trying and applying and looking for positions. Like, I have emailed a couple companies and written and reached out, applied for different types of jobs. But it's very competitive. I am still reaching out to many. That was actually how I found the food and dating blog. I just applied. I was able to hit a good chunk of the requirements, so that worked out in my favor. Sometimes for the internships, they have a weird set of requirements, being like, you must have 5 years of writing experience. And I'm like,
for an internship?
For an internship? That's a little strange, but okay.
Is it a paid?
Like, pay me if you want this much experience.
Yeah, no, exactly. So is there any advice that you would like to give anybody that's, trying to get into writing or photography, or maybe just like general advice for people trying to make their way?
Don't fear rejection. I think that was the biggest one for writing in specific, where I have had a lot of writing friends get very sad or depressed when they get rejection letters. But the first time I got my rejection letter, I was actually very happy for some odd reason, because I was like, oh wow, I'm like a real writer now. I have something that was worth rejecting.
I think it's better to me, it's like, when you apply to a job and they just don't respond to you at all. They don't even say that, you were rejected. You have that feeling of like, oh, at least they acknowledge me, because there are tons of people, applying or submitting their stuff. And I feel like at that point, that they read it, which means, they know that you exist. So you think it has to do with that feeling.
It does. And I've if you think about it, Stephen King, he got rejected 50 times, over 50 times before he got published for anything. And then same thing with J.K. Rowling. I think she was rejected by 12 publishing agencies before she got something published. I don't want the Harry Potter fans to come for me. I'm not exactly sure. It's been a bit. But I think I only was rejected 12 times before I had anything published in a magazine that wasn't for school or for random content that I was posting on my own. It was my first magazine or blog that I started doing it for, and that was a couple months before I got hired for Yes Mija. So that was the first time I had anything that was mine physically published since I started college.
Oh.
And I was very excited about it. I was like, oh my god. And it was two at the same day for 2 different sites. So that was very interesting. I got acceptance letters and a professor was passing me and he's like, hey, how are you doing? And I'm like, I just got published. And he's like, what?
So what has happened to you since, graduating, or just in this year in general?
COVID.
Besides that.
Besides COVID. I got hired for Yes Mija 2 weeks before I actually graduated, but I didn't start working until about a week after I graduated. So I started doing that. About the time I was doing a photography thing for Creative Loafing, which COVID kind of killed because I was doing a lot of social events for it. So that was unfortunate. I was going to do my first few concert photography jobs.
Oh.
Concerts are not happening. I did make a big decision and moved to New York in the middle of a pandemic. That was very fun. I don't have any regrets. It's currently snowing outside. We're supposed to get
this. That's exciting.
Very excited. I started my own travel page on Instagram. It has its own website. I will be putting more content on it, I promise. I got hired for Gucci. That was a very interesting experience. our founder knows a lot of random stories I have for Gucci. It's very fun, very interesting to have on a resume. And I am currently still setting out publications and like submissions for a lot of other sites. Still applying. As I've mentioned, just got hired as another content writing piece somewhere. So I feel like I have done a lot and I'm like blanking out.
But I think it's good to like, you know, just think of like everything that you've accomplished, because sometimes like you look at little things and you're like, oh, that's not a big deal. Then you like look at the bigger picture and you're like, wow, look at everything that I've been doing, you know. So I think you've accomplished a lot. So
I've accomplished a lot since I graduated. When I was back in Jacksonville, just chilling, still studying, and now I did not imagine I would be in New York writing for not one but two content-based blogs, and I'm very excited about it.
Like a great luxury brand, like
yes, I never would imagine that I would work for them.
who would have thought? Not me.
Either. I was just like, yeah, okay, and I didn't realize I was going to be working for them. They were just like, hey, do you know how to do this? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, okay, you're going to be doing this for Gucci now. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Let's go.
I was like, I enjoy it. It was very interesting.
Well, go ahead and tell our viewers where they can find you on Instagram or anywhere else.
Of course. So you can find me. I have two different Instagrams. One is for Not So Teen Witch 97. That is obvious. My name is Sabrina. So if you can't connect the dots there.
Now it makes sense.
Not So Teen Witch. I'm not much of a teenager anymore. So I can't really say I'm the teenage witch right now. If anyone can accurately guess my age, I will send you good vibes for the rest of your life.
I'm going to guess 97.
Yes, that is correct. And then I have the Travel by Camera page. They're all interconnected, so if you find one, you'll probably find the other. I tag myself in pretty much everything. You can also find my written pieces over at Yes Mija in the blog section when you go on the website. We are getting more content out. We have more interviews and more stuff coming out soon, guys. We also have like shirts and hats, bucket hats. See? Got tie-dye. We have tie-dye, matching tie-dye bucket hats, guys. I really want one. So excited for them.
Awesome. I'm so glad that we can finally share, you know, our wonderful writer with the world.
I try out here.
Okay.
And hopefully in the future, we will find out more about our founder.